In this life, it's not every broken marriage that ends in divorce, and not every smiling couple is happily married. Some husbands laugh loudly in public but cry silently in the privacy of their cars after work. Some wives prepare delicious meals, care for the children, attend church, or social gatherings with radiant smiles, yet go to bed every night feeling emotionally abandoned. Some couples celebrate anniversaries, post beautiful family pictures online, and receive hundreds of congratulatory messages. Yet behind those carefully edited photographs lies a relationship hanging by a thread. The greatest danger in marriage is not always shouting. Sometimes it is silence. Not always betrayal. Sometimes it is neglect. Not always hatred. Sometimes it is emotional distance that grows so gradually that neither husband nor wife notices until they become strangers. Living under the same roof. An African proverb says, "The house may appear beautiful from outside, but only those who sleep inside know where the roof leaks." How true that is. We live in a generation that celebrates weddings but rarely prepares people for marriage. Billions are spent every year on wedding ceremonies around the world. Couples spend months planning decorations, designer clothes, photography, luxury venues, music, and catering. Yet many spend very little time preparing for the emotional, psychological, financial, and spiritual realities that begin after the honeymoon. The wedding lasts one day. Marriage lasts a lifetime. Unfortunately, many people prepare more seriously for a 3-hour examination than they do for decades of married life. Perhaps that explains why so many couples are shocked when marriage becomes difficult. They assumed love would eliminate hardship. Instead, they discovered that marriage often magnifies the strengths and weaknesses that already existed within them. Marriage is one of life's greatest blessings, but it is also one of life's greatest mirrors. It reflects who we truly are. It exposes our selfishness. It reveals our fears. It uncovers childhood wounds we thought it healed. It challenges our patience. It tests our character. As the American pastor and author Tim Keller observed in The Meaning of Marriage, marriage has a way of exposing the deepest parts of our character while inviting us to grow in love and selflessness. The problem is not that marriage creates all these flaws. The problem is that marriage reveals what was already there. Imagine placing raw gold into an intense furnace. The fire does not create impurities. It simply exposes them. Marriage works much the same way. The pressure of daily responsibilities reveals habits, attitudes, insecurities, and expectations that remained hidden during courtship. This is why some people say, "You never truly know someone until you live with them." There is wisdom in that statement. Dating often reveals personalities. Marriage reveals patterns. Dating shows intentions. Marriage exposes consistency. Why? Because dating happens under carefully planned circumstances. Marriage happens in everyday life. When money is short, when children are sick, when careers become uncertain, when parents grow old, when stress accumulates, and when life refuses to follow the script we imagined. Yet despite all these challenges, millions of couples quietly build beautiful marriages not because they avoid difficulties, but because they learn how to face them together. That is the heart of this discussion. Today, we are not here to criticize husbands. We are not here to criticize wives. We are here to understand them. Because understanding often succeeds where judgment fails. As Stephen Covey wisely advised, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That principle may be one of the greatest secrets of every lasting marriage. Special greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are and wherever you're watching us from around the world, welcome to Danny's Success Protocol. This is more than a channel. It is a place where minds are awakened, character is forged, and ordinary people discover the principles that lead to extraordinary lives. Every episode of our talk show is designed to challenge the way you think, strengthen the way you live, and inspire you to become the person you were created to be. So, take a deep breath, leave every distraction behind, and stay with us until the very end of this program. This is because the ideas you're about to hear could become the turning point you've been searching for. This is Dana's Success Protocol, where wisdom becomes action and action creates success. Now let's begin. Today we're starting a 3-part series titled, The Hidden Struggles of Married Men and Women. In this section, we shall be looking at part 1, which is The Battles Nobody Sees. But before then, may I ask you to please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, also like, share, and drop your comments. Thank you. Our first point of note is hidden struggle number 1, the silent burden of providing. Perhaps no responsibility weighs more heavily on many husbands than the expectation to provide. Across many cultures, from Africa to Asia, Europe to the Americas, men often grow up hearing the same messages. A real man never cries. A man must solve every problem. A husband must always have the answers. Failure is not an option. These statements are often spoken with good intentions. Parents hope to raise responsible sons. Communities want dependable fathers. Society values resilience. But somewhere along the journey, many men begin to believe a dangerous lie. If I cannot provide, I have no value. This belief silently destroys countless men from the inside. Many husbands are carrying burdens their wives never fully see. The burden of unpaid loans, the burden of declining businesses, the burden of job insecurity, the burden of inflation, the burden of rising school fees, the burden of elderly parents depending on them, the burden of pretending everything is under control when nothing feels stable. According to numerous studies in psychology, men are generally less likely than women to seek emotional support when facing overwhelming stress. Instead, many internalize pressure, believing vulnerability will be interpreted as weakness. Over time, that isolation can contribute to anxiety, depression, burnout, and relationship strain. Think about that for a moment. The very person expected to be the pillar of the family often has nowhere safe to lean. An old Japanese proverb says, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." Real strength is not pretending to be unbreakable. Real strength is knowing when to seek support before pressure becomes unbearable. Let's consider this case for example. David owned a thriving construction company. For nearly 12 years, business was excellent. His family enjoyed financial stability. His children attended excellent schools. His wife never worried about household expenses. Then an economic recession struck. Major contracts disappeared. Banks demanded repayments. Employees expected salaries. Clients delayed payments. Within months, David's entire financial world began collapsing. Every morning, he left the house wearing confidence. Every night, he returned carrying fear. His wife notices he had become unusually quiet. She assumed he no longer loved her. The children thought he was becoming unfriendly. Friends believed he had become arrogant because he stopped attending social events. Nobody knew he spent hours sitting alone inside his parked car before entering the house. Not because he disliked his family, because he didn't know how to tell them he feared losing everything. This story reflects a painful reality for many husbands. When fear is hidden long enough, it often disguises itself as anger, silence, withdrawal, irritability, or emotional distance. The family experiences the symptoms without understanding the cause. This is why empathy matters. Sometimes the person who appears cold is actually overwhelmed. Sometimes the loudest anger is hiding the deepest fear. This brings us to one important factor: what wives need to understand. Supporting a husband does not mean carrying every financial burden yourself. It means creating an environment where he feels safe enough to say, "I'm struggling." Those 3 words can save a marriage. A husband who cannot admit weakness may eventually collapse beneath it. Likewise, husbands should remember that sharing a burden is not the same as surrendering leadership. Leadership is not pretending to have all the answers. Leadership is having the courage to face reality honestly and invite your spouse into the journey. After all, marriage was never designed for one person to carry the entire weight alone. As Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 to 10 reminds us, 2 people are better than one because when one falls, the other can help lift them up. Hidden struggle number 2, loneliness inside marriage. One of the saddest paradoxes of modern life is this: a person can be deeply lonely while living with someone they love. Loneliness is not simply the absence of people, it is the absence of emotional connection. Many couples speak every day, but they rarely communicate. They discuss bills, school fees, household chores, children's schedules, utility payments, extended family matters, weekend plans. Yet weeks pass without either spouse asking, "How are you doing? Really?" Psychologists often distinguish between hearing and listening. Hearing registers sound, listening seeks understanding. Many marriages have plenty of conversation but very little understanding. Imagine 2 people sitting in the same boat. If each rows in a different direction without communicating, they will become exhausted without making meaningful progress. Marriage is no different. When emotional intimacy weakens, physical proximity cannot compensate for it. You may sleep beside your spouse every night and still feel completely unseen. Technology has made this struggle even more common. A husband scrolls through his phone after work. A wife responds to messages while watching television. Children are absorbed in tablets. Everyone shares the same room, yet no one is truly present. A family can be physically together while emotionally worlds apart. There is a reason relationship experts repeatedly emphasize the importance of quality conversation. Not conversation about responsibilities alone, but conversation about dreams, disappointments, fears, hopes, memories, and gratitude. The strongest marriages are not built merely on shared addresses. They are built on shared hearts. For example, let's consider this case. Grace often complained that Samuel no longer talked to her. Samuel insisted they talked every day. When a counselor asked them to describe a typical evening, Samuel proudly listed everything they discussed: the children's homework, electricity bills, the leaking roof, weekend shopping. Grace quietly responded, "Yes, but he hasn't asked how my heart is doing in almost a year." The room fell silent. Samuel realized something profound. Communication is not measured by the number of words spoken. It is measured by the depth of understanding created. That day changed their marriage because they stopped exchanging information and started sharing themselves. Now, here is a lesson worth remembering. Many marriages do not collapse because love disappears. They weaken because emotional connection slowly fades through neglect. Just as a garden dies without water, love struggles without intentional care. Small conversations often prevent large conflicts. 5 minutes of genuine listening today may save 5 years of misunderstanding tomorrow. Hidden struggle number 3, the invisible mental load. When people think about hard work in marriage, they usually think about physical tasks: cooking, cleaning, laundry, going to work, paying bills, driving children to school. But there is another kind of work that receives far less recognition. It is invisible. It cannot be photographed. It does not appear on a payslip. Yet it consumes enormous emotional energy. Psychologists and family researchers often describe this as the mental load, the ongoing responsibility of remembering, anticipating, organizing, and coordinating the countless details of family life. For many wives, this invisible labor begins before sunrise and often continues long after everyone else is asleep. It is remembering the child's vaccination appointment, noticing that the cooking gas is almost finished, planning next week's meals, keeping track of school projects, buying birthday gifts, checking on elderly parents, replacing household supplies before they run out, monitoring the emotional well-being of the children, remembering anniversaries, scheduling repairs, thinking ahead, planning ahead, worrying ahead. Even while resting, the mind continues working. The body may be sitting, but the brain never stops. Imagine carrying an invisible backpack, filled with dozens of unfinished reminders every single day. Nobody sees the backpack, but its weight is real. Let's take this case for example. Esther worked as an accountant. Her husband Daniel loved his family deeply and willingly helped whenever she asked. If she requested that he wash the dishes, he did. If she asked him to pick up groceries, he did. If she needed help bathing the children, he gladly participated. One evening, overwhelmed by exhaustion, Esther burst into tears. Daniel looked confused. "But I always help," he said. She gently replied, "You help with the tasks, but I carry the responsibility of remembering all the tasks." That sentence transformed their marriage. Daniel realized that true partnership meant more than completing assignments. It meant sharing the responsibility for planning, anticipating, and leading together. From that day forward, he began taking ownership of certain family responsibilities without waiting to be asked. The difference was remarkable. Esther did not merely feel supported, she felt seen. And sometimes feeling seen is one of the greatest gifts a spouse can offer. Now, here is a lesson for every marriage. Whether husband or wife carries more of the mental load in a particular family, the principle remains the same. Marriage flourishes when responsibility is shared, not merely divided. The question is not, who worked harder today? The better question is, how can we make each other's burdens lighter? Because love is not measured only by grand gestures. More often, it is revealed in the quiet willingness to notice what the other person is carrying before they have to ask. Now, as we conclude on the first part, let's run a brief recap. So far, we have uncovered 3 invisible burdens that quietly shape many marriages. 1, the pressure to provide. 2, the loneliness that exists even between 2 people who love each other. And 3, the unseen mental load that often leaves one spouse emotionally exhausted. But these are only the beginning. In part 2, we will uncover even deeper struggles that silently erode relationships: financial conflict, unspoken expectations, changing intimacy, and the painful loss of personal identity after marriage. More importantly, we will explore why so many loving couples drift apart without ever intending to, and how that drift can be reversed before it becomes permanent. The most dangerous problems in marriage are rarely the loudest ones. They are often the quiet ones that grow unnoticed, until one day they become impossible to ignore. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and tap on the notification bell so you get informed whenever we post a new video. Also, like, share, and drop your comments for us. We love and deeply appreciate your support. See you in part 2 of this video. Bye for now.